I'm Maxxx Pleasure, and I'm going to give you 3 tips for creating your drag persona. The coolest thing about drag as an art form is that there are so many possibilities. That's why I think it's kind of silly when drag performers try to enforce a set of rules on how to do it, especially when those rules are kind of founded in really binary, cis-normative, heteronormative thinking. I really think that if we impose rules on what a drag king should look like or what his character should be like, we're kind of missing the whole point of doing drag. So these tips are really more like a set of principles. I call them Maxxx Pleasure's Mighty Principles because we love alliteration. The first principle is to play to your strengths, but to also make your weaknesses work. When I first started drag, I had this idea that I would be this like demon, vampire, alien like kind of guy, which is super cool, but I didn't have any makeup skills. Also, the idea of wearing a bald cap or a wig made me feel really silly. So like, how was I supposed to like pull off this alien fantasy? So I identified these weaknesses, but I also asked myself, okay, so what are my strengths though? My charisma on stage, my decent dance moves. When I paired these weaknesses with these strengths, the rock star persona kind of just fell into my lap. I could use my bare minimum makeup skills to look like a human man rock star with messy eye makeup, and I could throw some gel in my hair and make it look like the greasy, unkept, just rolled out of bed type of thing. I could like do a funky Mick Jagger walk on stage. My skills and the rock star persona was kind of a match made in heaven. Also, the idea of being a rocker type really excited me. Which actually brings me to my second point, which is to feel your fantasy. It's kind of really obvious when a performer is just going through the motions. Like, you can tell their drag persona is just the kind of guy they saw other drag performers doing. You need to sit down and ask yourself, not only what can you pull off, but what excites you? What kind of drag character do you want to have? Like, for example, I could have swept my hair to the side and been a boy bander, One Direction, Justin Bieber type. But like, that just doesn't strike the match of my inner fire for me. It is so important to feel good about what you're bringing to the stage, because there's nothing more exciting for an audience to watch than a king who's excited to be there, who's excited about what he's doing, who feels good about what he's doing. Moving on. While drag is a very personal medium, and every performer I know gets like a real personal gratification out of performing, you cannot forget about the audience. Which brings me to my third and final principle: be mindful of your choices. The choices that you make on stage can be interpreted by the audience in any number of ways, and you need to be aware of what those ways are. This is a really important thing, I feel like, especially for drag kings in particular, because it's so easy to accidentally further toxic ideas when performing masculinity, in my opinion. When I first started drag, I thought that I always had to have a sexy femme backup dancer who I did sexual dance moves with, because I thought an easy way to communicate, look at me, I'm a man, I'm a masculine person, was to like grind on a pretty girl. But the thing is, using women as props is gross, and insinuating that a man's ability to be a womanizer is a measure of his manhood is incredibly problematic. There are a million things wrong with that. I could honestly go on forever about this. Really, the important thing is, ask yourself how your choices could be interpreted by another person every step of the way. When you're making your mix, when you're doing your makeup, when you're putting together your costume, even when you're up on stage, it's so important. There are so many ways to do drag, but I think whatever way you decide to do it should be with your skills in mind, your desires and your comfort at the forefront, but also always with awareness. I really believe that keeping these principles in mind will help you create a drag persona that you love, but also one that an audience could love as well. I have so many more thoughts on this topic, and I love talking about it. So if you have any questions or you want to talk about this more, please do so in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. If this was helpful to you at all, please give me a like. Also, if you're looking for even more tips and tutorials, you can subscribe to my channel. I'll have more of those coming out soon. That's it. Thank you.